My name is Piotr Bomak. I am a community manager at EXOR Studios. And our most recent project was the Riftbreaker. The Riftbreaker was a smash hit for the studio. And today I'm going to tell you what worked for us when we were trying to improve the discoverability of the game. Of course, this is just from our experience. Not everything works for every game. Not everything is right for your game. Not everything is right for your type of audience. But I'm going to try and give you some tips on how to find out what could work for you and what things you can try on various levels of effort, budget, etc. I joined the studio in 2018. It was after the launch of X-Morph Defense. I was given a year of just experimentation, trial period with Zombie Driver and X-Morph Defense to find out what we could do better in order to market our next game. Prior to that, I had no game dev experience at all. I used to be a teacher. So everything that I learned through experimentation and through articles on the web, through various tutorials. And if you would like to, I can give you some sources on that. But yeah, what I'm going to talk about are the key takeaways that we have drawn from our previous projects, from our failures and successes. We are going to talk about marketing and design principles because those were very interwoven when we were designing the product. We are going to talk about understanding your audience, the effectiveness of various tools, and how they affect the discoverability. We are going to talk about the importance of being very focused and knowing what you want to achieve when you are taking on some activities. And I'm going to sum up the best opportunities that I feel right now are worth your attention. All right, so let's start with X-Morph Defense. X-Morph Defense, as a project, started in 2012. It was a mixture of a tower defense with a shoot-'em-up. The guys spent 4 years developing this game in complete silence. Only the last 9 months of the development cycle were somehow devoted to marketing. There were only a couple of marketing beats that my friends from the studio, my colleagues, really focused on. Those were announcement of the title, announcement of the release date, and the release itself. And focusing on those couple of beats didn't generate a lot of interest. There were just too few opportunities for people to notice the game, to learn what it's about. And as a result, we didn't get much attention. We didn't get any kind of featuring on Steam or any other storefront that we tried. And unfortunately, the game did well, did okay, right? But after 5 years of work, okay was just not enough. And in order to understand what happened, what went wrong, we delved deep into the process. We tried to assess what happened, where we made mistakes, and this is what we came up with. I know it's a lot of text, but I'm going to try to tell you very shortly what this is all about. And if you would like to get these slides after the session, just email me. I'll send it to you, and you'll have that. So what went right was grassroots marketing. What we mean by grassroots marketing is being very direct, and I like to call it working at a very low level. So you don't present yourself as this unnamed entity or anonymous entity. You try to show that you are, as a developer, you are a human and you are trying to connect with other humans. So what went right was just interacting with fans directly on Twitter, Facebook, Steam. They really enjoyed getting responses from developers. reaching out to existing fans. What we mean by that is EXOR Studios does not use separate accounts for each game. You know, sometimes when you are starting a new project, you decide, oh, I need to get a new profile on social media in order to promote this project. We decided to go against that, and we use only one account for all our projects. And usually, fans who were interested in your previous projects, they are going to at least take a look at what you are doing next. So reaching out to existing fans worked quite well. Regular posting schedule, it's important for the algorithms, and they are ruthless, and if you stop posting, then your account basically dies and you can start a new one. So if you post regularly, then everything's fine. If you stop, you are going to have trouble reaching your previous levels of engagement. Visual GIFs presenting the game. Very short clips. GIFs don't require anyone to click to a different page. They don't require anyone to press play, and they work better than screenshots, especially if you want to show action. Tech-oriented stories on Imager, Facebook groups, and Reddit. Turns out that people are really keen on learning stuff, especially if they are interested in. Let's take it from the other approach. Let's approach it from another way. People are really keen on learning superficially about stuff that they find interesting. So if you try to show them aspects of game development, the most exciting aspects of game development, they are going to read your story, they are going to like your story, and they are going to probably follow you for the rest of the development, maybe even buy your game. So, for example, we did an entire article on how we made trees react to wind and how we made fire spread on those trees. In reality, those are really boring things, but they can be presented visually in a very attractive manner, so that worked. Selling moment-to-moment gameplay and very good wishlist conversion. Those were the things that we were very happy about. What we were not happy about was being silent for 4 years. Those are 4 wasted years. Because, of course, the game is getting made. You are proud of what you're achieving. You are making big steps, big improvements. But unfortunately, those years could have been also spent showing what you're doing to others. And in order to avoid the mistakes, we decided to have a very long marketing period for the next game. We focused too much on traditional media. We sent out thousands of emails to various people. Hey, cover me. Hey, please cover me. Hey, would you please open this email and cover me? They won't. So that was a mistake. We were too scared to show unfinished stuff. As it turns out, people like seeing bugs. People like the unexpected. So if you have a funny bug, record it, make a GIF out of it. People are going to love it. We did not have an early influencer build. We didn't have any means to give influencers exclusive stuff. And exclusive stuff is what sells. It's what drives clicks. And if you don't have anything that you can offer to influencers, unfortunately, they're not going to be interested in working with you. We had a very limited outreach to influencers, which is kind of the result of the previous mistake. We didn't have a structured community. We didn't have a marketing budget. Nobody knew our studio. And marketing wasn't the focal point of the development process. So in order to avoid those mistakes, we decided that focusing on just a few major marketing beats is very risky. And in order to maximize our potential to reach players, to allow players to discover it, we were going to make a beat out of everything that happened in the studio and everything that happened to the game. Everything that you do, every step that you take, can be made into a potential news story. For example, we, of course, had this major announcement that, hey, we're making this game, this is what it's all about. And then, after doing this announcement, after reaching the initial wave of players, we wanted to keep them interested. We wanted to feed them with details about the game so that they don't forget about us. So we wrote a detailed description of every enemy. We wrote a detailed description of how we prepared soundtrack, how we prepared voices for our characters in the game. I even wrote a story about walls. Walls are not interesting. Walls are just structures like, this is the most boring building you can have. But I showed that, hey, you can upgrade these walls and they change their visuals, and when you destroy them, they look like this. And look at these cool effects that you can have. Oh, and did you know that you can connect walls? Oh, did you know that you can make a gate? And look what these walls can stop. And then you show a GIF of an army of creatures just trying to overrun your base. But hey, walls stopped them. So walls became heroes in that story. So everything can be a news story. And more news stories give you more chances to reach your audience. Everything that you post on the web, everything that you post about your game, can be treated as a lottery ticket. There is a very, very small chance that anything that you post will go viral, will make headlines. There is a very little chance for that. But if you give yourself those chances, eventually more and more people are going to remember, oh, this is the game with cool walls, and they have monsters too. Maybe I'm going to check out that game later. You want to give yourself that chance. Game should be announced ASAP to extend the marketing period. We announced the Riftbreaker on the 8th of March 2019. The game was released on the 14th of October 2021. So it was 2.5 years, even more, of constant marketing push. We approached media and influencers as early as possible because, exclusive stuff that drives clicks. We created a minimum viable product, which is a fancy term for a demo. A very limited demo that was designed for half an hour of gameplay, just so that those media people, those influencers, could have something to play, could have something to look at, and stuff that we can later build on and show people how much we are improving the product through the development. So this was very important. We integrated marketing into design and production, and we realized that we only had one chance at a good first impression. When I joined the studio, X-Morph Defense was already launched. And I was given the task of trying to revitalize it, trying to create a community around it. Turns out that when the game is out, it's done. It's very hard, okay? It's at least very hard to convince people to try it out. After this initial wave, after the release, it's almost impossible to revitalize a project. There are, of course, cases where people had success, and I'm not saying that it's absolutely impossible, but yeah. Well, after you launch, more or less all the work is done. So yeah, the Riftbreaker. We reached more than 1 million players on a lot of platforms. We went through Steam, Epic, Windows Store, Xbox Series, PlayStation 5. We released the game on Game Pass as well. I'm going to also tell you how that worked for us, but a bit later. And we had a disc release on PlayStation 5 and Xbox. It was 3.5 years of development, 14-person team. We recently have grown a little bit. There are 15 of us now, which is a lot of progress, and we are using our custom in-house engine. It's called the Schmetterling. We are a Polish studio, but we decided that Schmetterling is a funny word, so we're going to call it that. And yeah, so the concept goals for the Riftbreaker was that this game was about base building, hack and slash, exploration, and survival. It's a bit like as if you connected Factorio and They Are Billions. Because those were the games that we were playing at the time. We had a contest within our studio. We had almost 40 game concepts, this one. And this is what we wanted. We wanted a replayable game that is quick, fast-paced, but also required you to think. We wanted a game that was easy to iterate on, that was easy to make improvements on, and scalable. And we decided that going for a lot of polish and trying to always show only the best build that we have is not the way to go, and people enjoy seeing you fail. So we decided to release the game as soon as we felt it was ready and not focus on, fixing all the bugs. Maybe people are going to find them funny. Of course, not game breakers, but if you find an exploit, that's good for you. Right. When it comes to marketing the Riftbreaker, of course, marketing was integrated from the start, as I said. We focused on making it very easy to stream, and we also added Twitch integration, again, in an effort to convince influencers to try the game out, because this is another way to interact with their audience. This is what makes the game a little bit more attractive to them. We had a dedicated budget this time, and we wanted to really give players what, and when it comes to content, when it comes to news about the game, we wanted to give the players something that they were interested in. And in order to give your players something that they're going to like, you need to understand what the motivations of your audience are. Thank you. There was a bit of lag, sorry about that. So you need to ask yourself a couple of questions. Who are you making the game for? What are your audience's needs? Are they looking for action? Are they looking to socialize? Are they looking to master a new skill? Are they looking for an achievement? Because you will not cover all those boxes. A game like that would be very difficult to develop, to create. So we decided that the genre that the Riftbreaker is in, or the mix of genres that the Riftbreaker is in, it will generally speak to people who are looking for action and who are looking for achievement and creative outlet. In the Riftbreaker, you can build huge bases, you can use many systems that we designed in order to overcome the difficulties that we throw at you. And the game is quite difficult. So in order to create good content for those people, every time we write a new story, we decide to focus on one of those areas. Either we show really high-paced, full of action moments, or we show how some systems work and how you can exploit them in order to break the game a little bit and maybe motivate players to find some more ways. And we are also, in other kinds of news, we are trying to show them the more creative side of our work and how we approach things, how we sometimes create something out of nothing. For a good example of this is the creative outlet thing. So there are players who just want to create a huge sprawling base and they want to decorate it and they want to customize their character and they want to express themselves. And turns out that those players were also very interested in how we made voices for our characters. It was a very simple trick that I used to convince, to show people, it was a very simple trick that I used to create the voice of our main character, the Mr. Riggs, the robot that you can see on all the GIFs. I just showed people how I combined a couple of effects in a digital audio workstation, Reaper. Very basic stuff, just shifting a couple of tracks out of phase, adding a bit of delay, and we have a robot voice. And those people loved it, really, and they really appreciated they really appreciated us showing them that using very basic tools, you can create something much more complex. And those people who you cater to will potentially become your brand advocates. They will become your superfans. And they are going to be very useful if you manage to create a big community. And when you have, for example, a Discord server with over 20,000 people, they are going to be your moderators. They are going to keep everything running in order. So really pay attention to those people. Try to show them that they are appreciated. Every time they comment on your stuff, you know, leave a like or something. Just show them that you notice. So the dilemma of content creation. That's something that comes up very often when we are trying to come up with new topics for articles, new topics for news stories for the Riftbreaker. Because, of course, you want your articles and your news to be good, cheap, and fast. Unfortunately, the combination of these three things is a unicorn. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, but it's going to be very hard to find it. So usually you have to compromise. And what we usually do is create a lot of smaller news stories in advance. Those are good and fast. They are quite expensive to make because, you know, I spend, for example, 2 weeks in order to prepare articles for the next month. But those are the kinds of stories I told you about earlier. Stories about walls, stories about this building, or hey, now we can upgrade this building, or we made a new tool and it allows you to do this. Very small things. They take quite a lot of time because of the sheer number of stuff that you have to prepare, but they're pretty good. When it comes to good and cheap stuff, that is going to be slow. Once in a while, once every couple of months, we create a bigger article that we post on several other mediums, not only Steam, not only Facebook, Twitter. We also branch out and go to, for example, gamedeveloper.co or Imager, and those are our technical stories. Those are articles that usually require me to get a programmer and have them talk to me for 2 or 3 days about how some system in the game works. And then we go really in depth on that and try to create an interesting news stories from that. So unfortunately, we have to always compromise on stuff because we don't want things to be cheap and fast. We don't want them to be low quality. In general, the bread and butter of game discoverability is Steam. These are the stats from our Steam News Hub from the Riftbreaker. So those are since 2019 when we launched the page, the game page, and it's 60 million impressions. When you see that it's 2 million reads, it gets a little bit less impressive, but still, no other social media is going to give you such numbers as easily as Steam. And the more chances you give yourself to be in those fields, to be in those spots where Steam features your news, the better for you. When it comes to using social media, I found it that it was really difficult to make it work. And if you don't want to spend a lot of money on sponsored content, it was very unlikely that our stuff was going to go viral, so we didn't spend a lot of time doing it. Usually it's just a GIF, a paragraph from one of our articles, usually adapted to the length requirements of any of the platforms that we're posting on. In general, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, those are our points of contact. That's where people are going to come and complain about stuff, tell us about technical problems. Mostly people from platforms other than Steam. Steam players are usually going to come to the Steam community, but when it comes to PlayStation players, Xbox players, Chinese players, they are going to come to Facebook because it's much easier for them to access this than to access Steam. However, there are social media platforms that have huge potential for discoverability. And those are, in my opinion, TikTok and Imgur. While I still haven't had a lot of luck with TikTok, TikTok is really a wild place for me, and it requires you to absolutely shift your standards when it comes to catching attention of people and absolutely change your feeling of aesthetics. Imgur has worked well for us with those tech stories that we did. And in order to make them attractive, we used a little bit of clickbait. So as you can see on the right side, there is a screenshot of one of our news stories. And the title is, "If Factorio and Diablo had a baby, it would look like this." And then there is this GIF of a huge burning creature roaming through the forest. There is a ray-traced shadows there, so it looks very nice. And people clicked on this a lot. And stories that we did on Imgur really drove a lot of wish lists and a lot of traffic. So that was really good for us. And in order to make all this effective, you want to funnel all your traffic into one place. And that one place for us was Discord. And it was easier for us to manage our community through Discord. It was easier for us to share news, share important stories, share important dates, when we could just ping everyone on Discord. By the way, people hate it, don't overuse it. So yeah, we offered exclusive rewards for joining our hub, in this case, Discord. People who joined early had a chance to access the closed beta of the Riftbreaker. And we required them to leave their email. We chose them randomly and distributed keys in waves. And we saw people come in and join over a very long period of time. But every time that we posted a news story, there was a link, join our Discord. There was a banner, join our Discord. On Imgur, for example, people really hate ads there. Even though there is a lot of ads, people really hate them, and they are going to tell you that they hate them. People are going to downvote you if they smell that what you're doing is essentially an ad. So what we did was instead of linking to any of our store pages, we linked to Discord, and suddenly everything is a-okay because it's not a storefront. In general, we made users feel welcome and heard on Discord. We interacted with them daily. We involved everyone in the team in Discord. We have our programmers help modders. We have our graphics team share unused assets. And we have also live technical support almost 24/7. So it's a very useful thing. But as I said, you should not overstay your welcome, and do not ping them every time you have something new, or do not only post about your sales and offers, because they are going to leave, and you don't want them to leave. So be very careful with that. Another thing that worked well for us was working with our previous games. We installed buttons, check our new game in the main menus of Zombie Driver and X-Morph Defense. And it was an effective tool. It generated a lot of traffic, and this directed people directly to our store page. Maybe it should have been Discord, but we saw an increase in traffic after the patch that introduced these buttons. And of course, we used our game hubs from those previous games, from X-Morph Defense and Zombie Driver, to post news about the Riftbreaker. Now Steam generally frowns upon this, and they are going to tell you that this is cross-promotion, and they are going to kill the visibility of your news. But back then, it was still Wild West, and it worked. So in the first year of marketing, In general, we used wish lists as our metric for the effectiveness of marketing. So we visited a couple of trade shows because we got a grant from Polska Agencja Rozwoju Przedsiębiorczości. Without that, we couldn't have attended all these trade shows. And even though that some of them had featuring on Steam, even though that some of them, during some of them we had 1,000 people try out the game on site, they weren't very effective, but they gave us a lot of business contacts that we could profit from later. In general, the takeaway from the first year was that our content was king. It drove people, maybe not drove people, but it helped people not forget about us and share info with their friends. We had regular developer build streams, and we had interactive extensions that also helped a lot, because we decided that we want to keep people informed a lot. So we streamed the game live from developer builds. They were really cutting edge, you could say, or bleeding edge, because they broke a lot, and I had to do a lot of live debugging, and I had to ask for help from other team members. People were laughing at us, but they remembered that we were doing something like this. And it allowed them to see the studio and the creators of the game as someone who is a person, a live person, and it made them feel the connection. So we sent out the first influencer build, so our demo, to influencers in November, and that resulted in a spike in wish lists. We initially wanted to get 50K wish lists at launch. We got that within the first year, so that was a really good sign. When it comes to this demo that we sent out, it was survival mode gameplay, so bite-sized portion of the game. It was designed for 1-hour playing sessions. The maps were randomized, and it always plays out the same. You start out really slowly, you build up your base, and stronger waves attack you every couple of minutes. In between those attacks, the audience gets to vote on events that happen in the game. So for example, they can send a tornado at you, or they can give you some extra money, or they can send an acid rain cloud towards your base. Usually it's the bad stuff, but they have a lot of fun, and it makes streams very memorable. It allowed us to refine gameplay, and it allowed us to create a very good demo for what was about to come. And what was about to come was the first Steam Next festival. And that's a very important turning point in the history of the Riftbreaker, but we still have some ways to go before that. We had a big anniversary before that happened. We had the anniversary of Zombie Driver's 10 years. Zombie Driver first released in 2019. We convinced Steam to give us a publisher sale spot for that. And what we did during that sale was we gave out copies of Zombie Driver for free. There was like 800,000 copies given away for free. We deeply discounted all our other products, but when it comes to the site itself, we put the Riftbreaker and the Riftbreaker Prologue at the very top, and designed all the graphics around the Riftbreaker, because gaining traction and gaining followers for the Riftbreaker was the most important thing for us. Revenue was absolutely secondary. Now, in general, if you tried to do something like this, Steam would tell you that it's a big no-no, and you should not put unreleased products on the first page of your sale, of your publisher sale, but they do not enforce it. So they're going to tell you that it's wrong, but you can get away with this. Now, the second year of marketing is where things really started to heat up. We had our first gameplay trailer released as an exclusive with PC Gamer. By the way, it would not be possible if we didn't have those influencers before, because we had at least some amount of hype, and some journalists knew about this. So when our PR agency sent emails to those journalists, they didn't go to the shredder immediately. So that was good. We had very successful coverage from Eurogamer, and we hit 95K wishlist on June 15th, which was a day before the Steam Summer Festival. And Steam Summer Festival was the first festival of what we know now as Steam Next festivals. Now, we dedicated 2 months of development to really polish the Prologue experience. We made sure that it ran well, it worked on a lot of hardware, and that people would have a lot of fun playing it. It was much more polished than what we sent out to influencers. It was more polished than what we sent out, than what I played on stream, and it was one of the most popular games during the festival. And it generated 42,000 wishlists, which was about the half of what we already had, and it was a huge boost when it comes to discoverability, because the top performing demos were at the top of the festival page, and the festival drove a lot of clicks. We also encountered a huge fail during this festival, because for some reason this demo had to be specially prepared and not launched. It wasn't launched by us directly from our Steam partner. It was about to be launched by Valve once the festival goes live. So the festival went live and our demo didn't. It was visible in the store and people could, click ignore on it and nothing else. They couldn't download it. So thanks to our Discord and thanks to driving all our traffic to one hub, I was able to manually give out keys to the people who were interested. It was about 1,000 that I gave out, and it allowed us to still get some traffic for the first 6 hours of the festival, which were really important. Later on, it went live. After the festival, we did the Riftbreaker Prologue. Sorry, I have a little bit of lag here, so it's... Can we go back? Yay. So, additional weeks of development using the feedback that we gathered from the Riftbreaker. We localized it to 10 languages and released it as a separate product. Now, why did we release it as a separate product? There are a couple of reasons for that. And I'm going to see, I'm getting 10 minutes, so I'm going to skip a couple of slides in order to tell you why we went with the Prologue. Hey. Yeah, so the Prologue is a separate product that people add to the library on Steam. Now, once they add something to the library, it stays there. And people rarely delete anything from their library. Now, once they add it, the What's New section in the library will show them news from your Prologue as well. And it turns out that a lot of people actually do read the news items from this section of the library. So these are just the stats from the Riftbreaker Prologue. Those are 10 million extra impressions and 500,000 reads that we wouldn't have had otherwise. And it's 1/5 of what we have on the regular Riftbreaker, and it's basically just copy-paste of the news. It's nothing else. And it still allowed us to get much more visibility. Another important thing is that we went into cooperation with SureFire Publishing. It's a Chinese company, and They handle all sorts of influencer outreach, translations. They handle reviews influencers in China. And they also manage our community on Steam. You know, it's very difficult for Chinese players to get in touch with you to find your games on Steam. They do it through proxies, through a lot of different tricks. And they are very vocal when some things do not work for them. They are going to leave you negative reviews. They are going to set up a lot of posts on your Steam discussions page. And you want somebody who's going to be able to handle that. SureFire did, and when we started cooperating with them, we saw a significant spike in wish lists from China, and they were high-quality wish lists. They were not bots. They converted. Now, we also, another thing that was important for discoverability of the Riftbreaker, we teamed up with Microsoft, and the Riftbreaker was available on Xbox Game Pass from day one. It was basically one of the things that allowed it to happen was the fact that we are working on our custom engine. And this custom engine is, we could expand it with basically anything that we want. So we decided to add ray tracing and work hard in order to get 60 FPS on Xbox Series consoles. Xbox Series consoles were very fresh at that time, and it allowed us to convince Microsoft to get us a Game Pass deal. Game Pass deal allowed us to extend the development for a couple of months, and also it gave us some extra marketing budget for paid marketing campaigns, which is the next point. Right. So we targeted medium and small influencers when it comes to our marketing campaigns. And we decided that we would target influencers who were interested in very specific kinds of games. Our typical budget was 10 to 20K. So that's what we usually gave as a baseline to the agency that we worked with. By the way, the agency that we worked with is called GameSight. We worked with a lot of agencies, but these guys could actually get influencers that they promised. But they did not saturate our budgets. Usually you decide that, hey, I want to work with this guy, and that guy, and only one of them is actually going to do a video on you. So the average wishlist cost was $2 or $3. We also ran some ads on Facebook and Reddit, but it was very difficult to get them to do meaningful stuff. When it comes to working with influencers, YouTube worked better for us than Twitch, because when you put up a video on YouTube, you know it's going to stay there. People are going to see it through the magic of the algorithm, even days or months after its release. When it comes to Twitch, the stream is done, the VOD is up for 2 weeks maybe, and then it's gone, and nobody's going to remember that. And we found that YouTube videos with their long tail, they performed better for us. Now, when it comes to very large influencers, people usually watch them because they like the personality of this big influencer. And they are there to watch those people, not the game that they're playing. The game, they could be playing, you know, pinball from Windows XP, and it wouldn't make any difference. Smaller YouTubers have a more engaged audience. So as you can see, I included 2 examples. We made a deal with an influencer called Blitz, 3.94 million subscribers. The video did okay, 268,000 views. It could have been worse. But we also worked with Splattercat Gaming, 800,000 subscribers, and the video did 100,000. Now, the video from Splattercat did a lot better than the video from Blitz, because of one simple reason. When you sign up a contract with one of those influencers, you pay based on their average views. So if an influencer has an average of 300,000 views on their video, you are going to pay for a video that has an average of 300,000. You are not guaranteed that your video is going to get 300,000, but that's what you pay for anyway. And this is what we use in order to decide which influencers we want to work with. So I can tell you more about it after the session. If you catch me, I can show it to you in more detail. Now, coming to the snowball effect and the clickbait that I used to get you to see this presentation. If only I can, yeah. So we did a lot of things over the course of 32 months of marketing. We garnered 389,000 wish lists, 550,000 demo downloads, and you can see that our followers grew very steadily. We had a couple of spikes that were connected to those big events, the Steam Next Festival, the second festival that we took part in, because back then you could take part in more than one. So those were those huge spikes. But in general, there was no one trick that worked for us. It was just hard work and keeping at it and releasing content every week, twice a week, sometimes even more. So what can you do if you have only time to spend on discoverability? Create a Discord, have an early playable build, post about your progress. Let people hear about you, because if you sit in silence, they're not going to come to you. If you have some more money, if you have some budget kicking around, try influencer marketing, get some good trailers. Trailers are very important. Get a PR agency to handle press for you. You don't want to spend time sending 2,000 emails. And go to trade shows, but not to show the game to people, but to do business deals with other developers. That's going to you're going to profit from that. Now, if you have money to burn, you can spend an infinite amount of money on ads, but it's not worth it, right? Because you want to make profit from the game. And the most expensive thing is hiring a person to do that marketing and to work with you all the time on a regular basis. So yeah, that is basically it. Any questions?
Does anybody have a question? Okay, yes.
Yes, please.
Thanks for the talk. I have a question regarding your wishlist conversion. How many users purchase your game from wishlist?
Within the first week? I have data on that, actually. Just give me a couple of seconds. Our 7-day wishlist conversion was 23.6%. And it was very scary for us because we didn't know if those older wish lists that people gave us in 2019 would convert in 2021. But 23.6 is well above average, and it shows that feeding people with a lot of news about your game was really an effective thing to keep them interested, and we just didn't allow them to forget about us. So yeah, 23.6 from 380,000, and this was not the only storefront, so it was very good.
Okay. Thank you so much, Piotr.
Thank you.